A dneska nám přišel říct něco o tom, jak lze použít nějaký relace mezi posttypama k vybudování nějakých jednodušších site. Takže word is zero, so let's ask talk about your presentation.
Thank you, thank you. Can you hear me? Okay, I will try to speak louder. Hello, hi, my name is Dario, and are you tired? Honestly? I know, me too. So I will talk about post relationships and how you can use it to build better advanced sites, and when you would need them and how to use them. So the good news is I'm not a programmer. So I could say I'm a developer, but I'm not a programmer. So it will be fairly simple. But I have also my colleague here who knows a bit more technical stuff. So later we can talk to you. If you have any more questions, feel free to just come to us, and even on the after party we would be happy to talk to you. And so this is me. I work for on-the-go systems, as I was introduced. You probably know us best for the WPML plugin, which allows you to create multilingual sites, and the toolset plugin, which allows you to basically create any kind of a site from the WordPress backend, so without programming in PHP. And yeah, let's start. So first, let's get the simple thing out of the way. So what are post relationships? Before it's on the screen, but I would really like, this is a developer like track. So does anyone here understand what a custom post type is? Can you raise your hand, please? Okay. This is good for a developer track. So basically, post relationships allow you to connect these post types. It makes sense. But why would you want to do that? Basically, because then when you're displaying stuff on the front end, you can actually use these connections. So let's take a look at the simplest example. You probably know this, but I will say it anyway. You're already using simple kinds of post relationships in WordPress, as we all are. And as you can see on the screen, it's comments, for example, because you can have a post and a bunch of comments below. And as we all here probably know, a comment is actually in the WordPress database. It's a post. It's a kind of a post. So it's related to the post you are commenting on. The other example would be the pages, which can have there can be a parent page, there can be child pages, and this is also like a very simple type of post relationship. But the point is, and what I'm trying to the point of my talk today is you can do much more with post relationships than this. So I prepared, I hope you can see it. So I prepared an example. This is a cooking site. It could be prettier. I'm not a front-end developer, so but it has recipes, obviously, because it's about cooking, and it's just usual stuff you would expect, like a title, some description. You have this taxonomy here, some custom fields, and ingredients. So these are all custom fields, but you can scroll down in this example and you find two things: a video and some kind of equipment used to prepare this kind of a recipe. So yes, you could do this. For example, the video is the most obvious example. You could have a custom field for a video URL. It's perfectly fine. But if you use a post relationship where this video is not just a custom field and just a URL, but it's actually also a post, then you can have something like this. You can easily create a video archive. So you have and then these videos are actually posts, and you can do whatever you want to with them. You can list them on an archive, or you can allow people to search through them. And the other part is the equipment, which I showed, and this is so this is another post of a Blender, and you can then easily list all the in this example, all the related posts that you can actually use this Blender on. So this is just an example to to illustrate one use case. Now, why would you actually use post relationship? Let's get through this. There are three main reasons, and the first one is duplications. So without post relationships, in many cases, let's take this example of the Blender, you would need to re-add the same information all over again. So you have imagine basically a bit bigger site. So you have 100 recipes. And if you want to add a Blender to 20 of them, you need to add the Blender, name or something, and the image 20 times. If you have a huge site, it can be 200 times. So this is the first thing you get out of the way, because you don't need to duplicate. You just later you create the Blender once, the Blender post, and you just connect it to your whatever recipe you want. And the other part is that this Blender, so as I said, you could work around this. You could use maybe I don't know, a taxonomy for equipment you can use here. But then you cannot. It is much harder to design the page of this related content. So in this example, I just put soups, which is this related kind of a food, and which lists the posts. So if this was a taxonomy, then this would be a taxonomy archive, and we all know it's not so easy to manipulate as a standard post, because if this is a post, I can do whatever I want with it very easily, even from the back end. I can use Gutenberg to design it, sorry, the block editor, and or maybe any other page builder I want, or not page builder if I don't want to use them, but something else. And the third part is that having posts instead of other workarounds makes your content more searchable. So let me show you. You could have, for example, a very usable custom search, and these are just a drop down of kind of foods in this example. And as they click any of these, they get the related results down here. And this is so making your content more searchable is very important. So now that I hope I introduced when or how you would use them, let's see what different kinds of post relationships there are. This is actually called, this is what Jan mentioned to me, it's called cardinality, so the types of relationships. So there are three kinds. It's very simple. One-to-many, one-to-one, one-to-many, and many-to-many. But let me illustrate. So in a one-to-one relationship, it's like the video we had. So my recipe, you have only one video that shows you how to cook this recipe. So it's like a one-to-one relationship, right? And my example here, actually the image is not completely accurate, because this arrow could also be here, because it's not exclusive, When I'm showing the video, I can show the recipes and vice versa. So this is one-to-one relationship. One-to-many is our kind of foods and our recipes. So here it is. It's very simple also, but in this case, so there can be many recipes, belonging to a certain kind of food. There could be many soups, but a soup is a soup. It cannot be a dessert, right? So it can be only a soup. So this is the one-to-many. And the many-to-many is actually the most complex one, even in the backend and the stuff you need to do, and maybe even to understand. But again, it's fairly simple if you show it visually. It's just recipes and equipment. So one recipe can use, you could need many different equipments to create it, and also one particular blender or microwave or whatever can be used to create many different recipes. So this is let's say the theory. So how you actually can connect different post types. Honestly, you should use a plugin. This is because it's not like, you know, as I said, I'm not a programmer, but I know some PHP and, you know, basic programming. But, you know, creating a custom post type, for example, is very simple. You can just, you know, copy paste something from the, you know, code, the code documentation of WordPress, and you just adjust it, and that's it. But with post relationships, it's much more complicated. And basically, if this interests you, I suggest like looking for a plugin that's right for you. And I listed like 4 important things. So features, compatibility, performance, and maintenance. So let's take a look why this is important, because there are quite some plugins you can find on the WordPress repository and on Google that have some kind of post relationship built in and allow you to create some relationships. But in most cases, they are very simple, you know. And so if you have a tiny bit more complex site structure, you could run into a wall pretty quickly, feature-wise. And then this is the second part is about how they store the information. This is very important because again, in a simple, smaller sites, you know, you can have like most of these plugins working fine, but as soon as you have something more complex to query on the front end, it will just be very expensive for your server. It will run like I don't know how many queries, and it will just slow down your site and sometimes even make it unusable. So when you're planning, you should keep this in mind. And of course, maintenance is important. Honestly, I don't know many of these plugins. I researched a bit and looked what they offer and what there is to use. But quite some are not being maintained. And we know how WordPress, especially in the late, you know, now, it's moving ahead very quickly, and it's really not, I would never like suggest having something that's not updated for like a year or 2, you know. It's just, I wouldn't, you know, suggest it. And finally, I come from the like multilingual, you know, plugin company, but it's important today because, you know, we are like, every day we are even more global than we were yesterday, and multilingual sites are like, you know, they're just, I think they're just rising in importance. And I will explain you later, but basically if you need a multilingual site with post relationships, the options are very, very like limited. So these are some of the plugins I found, researched. Toolset is ours, and ACF you all know, it's a nice plugin. And the other ones are fairly popular. Again, some of them are not quite maintained, but they are like they have their like share of users. And Toolset is basically the most complete solution. Now I know, you know, to get the elephant out of the way, so I work like for the team behind Toolset. So I say this because it's not like it's not an advertisement, but just a fact. Because we had Jan here, you can ask him later questions, as I said, basically spending like, and he's a very like a top programmer. I know you're like very humble, so he will hide now, but a top programmer working 2 years on a program like, on a feature like this, and it's like a huge thing to develop. And basically nobody did this in this way so far. But I will show you, of course, other options. But here's an example of what you will not find anywhere. This is a many-to-many relationship, another example of doctors and patients. So imagine you have like, I don't know, a site for a hospital or whatever, and you connect doctors with patients. Every doctor can have multiple patients, and patients can go to different doctors. And this in the middle is actually like, it's called an intermediary post type, which connects these two types. So why use intermediary? Because you can have a special custom fields for this type. So imagine when you search through, you can then search through appointments, and you can search through dates, the summary notes. You can have attached documents, you know, like maybe, you know, like how to say, when they get some kind of medical documents, and this is basically only possible with the toolset. It's not possible to do it with other plugins, and I can tell you, for example, on the ACF, which is a very nice plugin, and it's very popular for a good reason. They have a relationship field, I mean the option, but it's first it's very basic. It basically allows you to, you know, connect a post to some other posts, and I will show you later. It's kind of expensive to use it on the front end to query it. So now how it works like, how it looks like, so it's not so abstract. This is like, in Toolset, this is a wizard that allows you to create a post relationship. So you just click which one, and on the next step you select which post to connect, and that's it, basically. Of course, if it's a many-to-many, you can add custom fields to the relationship. And on the back end, when you're editing a post, okay, this is like, I will blow it up a bit, but basically you have like one relationship here, another here, and it's just like a table of connected things. So it's fairly simple, and this is how it looks like a bit more close-up. So, you know, you can add new equipment. This means creating a new post, which is related to this one. Or you can connect existing, which you usually want to do. As I thought, you don't want to duplicate a Blender. You want to connect it already existing one. And this is how it looks like on the back end. And other solutions are, they look different, but basically it's the same thing. You have some kind of a drop-down where you select what you want to connect. So the usage part is really, it should be simple, so you shouldn't be afraid of that. And this is the connecting, you know, so you just type in the post you want to connect and select it, and that's it. It's connected and you can query it. So the interesting part of how to display it, as I said, so basically you have two options. You can use PHP, or you can use the admin, and again here there is really no option except a toolset for the backend. So, but if you're a developer, if you are a programmer, a PHP is an option, and I can show you how it looks like for ACF. So I don't know if you can see it, but ACF, I like the documentation on the ACF site. It's very clean and it's very usable. So it tells you what to do. You know, just copy paste this and adjust it to your post types, and you should be on your way. But as you can see, this is the point I was telling you about resetting the query. And so what this does is, like, ACF uses the post meta to store the connections, you know, and then when you want to display, for example, all the posts connecting to the main one, the parent one, it needs to go through all of them, and this is very expensive. So it's just like it's not optimal for performance. So this is if you're like into PHP and you don't, you know, need the backend solution. But on the other hand, in the backend, this is toolset again. So this is like a template for my recipe. It's just shortcodes with very basic HTML, you know, nothing special. But basically, it kind of mirrors the PHP template you would find here for a custom post type. And I want to insert a video here. I click the button, and I say I don't want to display a video from the current post, because current post is a recipe which doesn't have a video. But I have a connected video post type. So I just select it, click insert, and I have the shortcode. And this part tells actually WordPress what to query. I mean, It tells it with a very complex things going on in the backend, but and it does so in a in a proper way, in a non-expensive way, you know. And this is the very important part. So to sum up, why and when you should use it, I think it's very important where you're building something even a bit more complex. Or I was a web developer before, so you know, you probably experienced where the client says like, it will be very simple, you know. It starts very simple. So you create it, and then in like maybe even a month after the launch, they will tell you like, and we want to add this, and we want to add this because clients, our own clients want this and this, and then you're like stuck because you don't have the right structure. But if you start with a good structure, and if you have a fairly complex site in a way like this, using post relationships saves you a lot of time and further in the future development. And so these are the post relationships, and I'm thinking if there's something I missed. I don't think so. Basically, the options are not like huge in the, you know, the options for plugins, but if you're interested, I suggest to research it. You will find, you know, many threads online about this, and you can, you know, I would suggest testing it, because, you know, that's the best way to actually evaluate things for yourself. So, you know, install whatever plugin you like, but avoid those not being maintained really, and install something that is being maintained, that you think it looks and works fine, and then just compare, and I think it will help you. So thank you. That's it. Do you have any questions? Sure.
I might have a short question. Mm-hmm. Is it accessible through the REST API?
What
you were just presenting.
You mean the toolset part?
Using the tooltip, or using the plugin.
Mm-hmm.
Is it possible to access the combined posts through the REST API and have like a complex output that way, or it's not supported?
Not yet.
Not yet. So we are working on it. Yeah, but it's definitely will be, yes. Any other questions? Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you.